And this is the next episode of The Locker Room. Listen, I am here, Cleveland born, Cleveland bred boy. Love my Cleveland sports. We're going to talk a little bit of Browns, a little Cavs. At the end, I got a coach's rant for the Browns. We're going to talk about the coaching search. We got some coaches that actually have turned down second interviews. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? All right. We're going to go into our draft prospects. Okay. I did a couple draft prospects last week. I'm going to do two more today. Always going to be one. One will be a wide receiver and one will be an offensive lineman. Today, we're going to talk about wide receiver Jordan Tyson from ASU and Vega Leon, offensive guard from Penn State. We're going to go through their film a little bit, chat a little bit about their film. Also, in Berea, to be the head coach of the Browns, is this a place where coaches want to go? I understand that's a rhetorical question, but I have to ask it. Okay. Then we'll move on to the AFC NFC championship game. The New England Patriots play the Denver Broncos. Denver is going to be without Bo Nix. He broke his ankle last week. So can Denver pull this thing out? We'll talk about it. Seattle versus the Los Angeles Rams. Rams had a stunning comeback against the Chicago Bears, and Seattle put boot to behind to the San Francisco 49ers. Now they butt heads. We're going to talk about that. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they played the Sacramento Kings yesterday. We're going to go over that game. We'll talk a little bit about the game against the Hornets. Then Donovan Mitchell is an all-star, but he's not an all-star starter. Is that an all-star snub? Or is it the right call? We'll get into that. Has Evan Mobley been unlocked? Has Kenny Atkinson found the formula to unlock Evan Mobley? Y'all know I've been a guy on top of Evan Mobley's head over these last few weeks. But I saw something in the past couple games that I think Kenny Atkinson has created out of Evan Mobley that, if this works, will make him an absolute mad genius. Okay? Then, are the Cavs right where they want to be? I know that sounds crazy, but we're going to talk about that. Are they where they want to be? I think they are, and I'm going to explain why. And then finally, my coach's rant. My coach's rant today is going to be about the Rooney Rule, but not the way you think. I'm going to break down the Rooney Rule to a fraction, and I'm going to show you why there's still some form of discrimination in the NFL when it comes to the Rooney Rule. All that today on The Locker Room. Listen, The Locker Room is sponsored by the makers of the Mindful Moment. If you go over to TikTok and you look up the Mindful Moment, what is the Mindful Moment? It is something that helps people get over the hump. It is words of encouragement, words of affirmation to get people over the hump. Listen, mental health is very important. We are in a mental health crisis over this country, and we need help. Okay. And if you need help, one thing you can do is subscribe to the Mindful Moment. So go over to TikTok, subscribe to the Mindful Moment, and get those daily affirmation, those daily pickups that we need to make it through our day. So that is who is sponsoring The Locker Room today. Also, if you are not a subscriber to The Locker Room, you need to go to YouTube, type in The Locker Room 34 or The Locker Room with Coach Young, and this will come up. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Listen, I'm all about the smoke, y'all, when it comes to Cleveland sports. That's just the way that I am. All right. Then I'm also a proud member of 3 The Hard Way Sports Podcast. You can also find us on YouTube, and you can go 3 The Hard Way Sports Podcast, and you will find myself, my man L Train, and the captain, Terrence Alston. And what we do, we talk Cleveland sports. That's what we do. All right. So remember, the Mindful Moment, The Locker Room, and 3 The Hard Way. Subscribe to all, and let's have a good time getting into this. Let's go. So the Cleveland Browns search, they interviewed a lot of candidates. Let's go over where some of these candidates went. John Harbaugh is now the coach of the New York Football Giants. Kevin Stefanski is in Atlanta. He is now the new head coach of the Falcons. Jeff Hafley is the new head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Robert Saleh, formerly of the San Francisco 49ers, is now the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. And Jesse Minter accepted the responsibility of being the head coach for the Baltimore Ravens yesterday. He actually turned down a second interview with the Browns to accept the Baltimore Ravens job. Side note, the Buffalo Bills, who got rid of Sean McDermott, is now interviewing Phillip Rivers. Yes, the same Phillip Rivers that came out of retirement to play for the Indianapolis Colts is now interviewing for the head coach's position in Buffalo. There are other candidates, but this one stuck out. Why did this one stick out? Because why would you give someone who has absolutely no head coaching experience in the NFL, not college, he coached high school. Now, I know there are some that will come on here and say, well, Phillip was a top-notch, top-level NFL quarterback for the San Diego Chargers. Okay, yeah, I get that. But you still got to pay your dues. There's coaches that are paying their dues that have not even been considered when it comes to a head coaching position in the NFL. And just because you played the position in the NFL doesn't make you qualified to be a head coach. Just like Jeff Saturday when the Indianapolis Colts made him a head coach. I don't care the fact of how he felt about it. He had no experience. Now, he's a Hall of Fame offensive lineman, surefire Hall of Fame offensive lineman. However, he's done nothing and has not earned his stripes to become a head coach. So I think that is comical that they would even consider Phillip Rivers. Okay, and then I'm hearing Josh Allen is going to sit in this interview. You know, I don't see it. I don't see it at all. So good luck to Buffalo. You got rid of a quality head coach in Sean McDermott for Phillip Rivers, possibly. I don't understand that. All right, let's get back to the Browns. Just an update. The Buffalo job is open. The Steelers job is open. Brian Flores signed an extension to stay in Minnesota. And there was some poignant comments that was made by former head coach Mike Pettin. I'm not going to get into that. If you want to know about the comments that Mike Pettin made when it came to Brian Flores, go ahead and look that up. But also, if you want to get a great commentary on that, I want you to hit up Unconventional Playbook. My man Lionel Jones, L-Train, does Unconventional Playbook for the Minnesota Vikings. I urge you to go to Unconventional Playbook and go ahead and look up the comments that was made by Mike Pettin when it came to Brian Flores. But Brian Flores signed a contract to stay with the Minnesota Vikings as a defensive coordinator. I thought he would have been a perfect fit. And I mean absolutely perfect fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So now the Pittsburgh Steelers are in a conundrum. I know they're talking about interviewing Mike McCarthy, the former coach of the Dallas Cowboys, the former coach of the Green Bay Packers. I just don't think that Mike McCarthy is a fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Brian Flores was an absolute seamless pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I could care less about Pittsburgh. That's on them. They can go dig up Newt Rockne if all I care. I don't really care about the Steelers. So the Arizona Cardinals are still out here looking for a coach. The Raiders are looking for a coach, which is funny to me, seeing is that they have the number one pick. And then, of course, the Cleveland Browns. So who do I believe is going to be the next Browns coach? Who do I believe is going to be the next coach for the Cleveland Browns? So there are three candidates. Number one is Jim Schwartz. Number two is Nate Schoolhouse. And number three is Grant Udinski. Not necessarily in that order. I think what the Browns, if you twist my arm, I think what the Browns are going to do, they want to talk to Schoolhouse. They had, I believe, a second interview with Grant Udinski. He's really climbed up the charts, uh, and then they did meet with Jim Schwartz. Here is what I think the Browns are going to do. It's between Schoolhouse and Udinski. I think they want Schoolhouse because he is a disciple of Sean McVay, and they want an up-tempo type of offense. And so I think Schoolhouse is the leader in the clubhouse. They just need to meet with him. I believe they can do a virtual interview with him on Monday because he's still in the playoffs. Udinski is the secondary plan. If Schoolhouse does not take the Browns job, they will go with Udinski. Don't be shocked if Schoolhouse may end up in Pittsburgh as well, if he does not end up with the Browns. And then if all else fails, they're going to go with Jim Schwartz. Either way, Jim Schwartz will not be out of Berea. If one of these other two head coaches become coach of the Cleveland Browns, Jim Schwartz will become the highest paid defensive coordinator in the NFL. Okay, Jimmy's going to throw money at him. There's not going to be a way that they're going to let him walk out of Berea. Okay, now if Schoolhouse and Udinski falls apart, then they're going to have Jim Schwartz as head coach because they do not want any changes to the defense. The changes have to be on offense, okay? And they want an offensive-minded individual to run the team, okay? They're going to merge Schwartz with whoever because they believe Jim Schwartz is a professional. They believe that, he will have command of the defensive locker room, okay? And everybody likes Jim Schwartz. And I'm tired. I've already heard this week when it comes to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, 92.3 The Fan, so on and so forth. You can find a defensive coordinator anywhere. It doesn't necessarily mean that you got to have Jim Schwartz in the room. Listen, I understand that all y'all want to say stuff that's controversial and that people can come back and they can get back at. Listen, I'm first team all common sense. And for me, when you have the number 1/number 2 ranked defense in the NFL and it's run by Jim Schwartz, why would you let him walk out of Berea? Because anything behind him is not going to bring what he has brought to the table. So it's best to keep Jim Schwartz there. Now, should Bubba Ventrone be there? Absolutely not. Bubba Ventrone should be gone. Okay. And all the other coaches should be evaluated. I think we need another wide receivers coach. Our wide receiver room was terrible, but it's how it's being coached. Okay. That's just at the end of the day, some of this stuff comes down to coaching. When you talk about Dillon Gabriel, you talk about Shedeur Sanders, I don't care what side you're on, whether you're pro Dillon, pro Cleveland Browns. And the end of the day, those quarterbacks were failed. And what I mean by failed is they were failed to be coached. Period. They didn't fail to be coached. The coaches failed them. Okay. There was not proper coaching. Dillon Gabriel, not proper coaching. Okay. Shedeur Sanders, not proper coaching. They weren't coached properly. Period. I can go and say Joe Flacco, same way. Wasn't coached properly. All right. And so the bottom line is this. The coach that comes into Cleveland has to be ready to develop Shedeur or Gabriel. Now, everybody's calling for Shedeur. I understand why. But somebody's got to come in, and the biggest thing about Shedeur Sanders is it has to be belief. Whoever comes into Cleveland has to believe that Shedeur Sanders can be a top-tier quarterback. And then they have to pour into him. To whom much that is given, much is required. And whoever comes into Cleveland, there's a lot that they got to deal with. They got to deal with a meddlesome owner in Jimmy Haslam. They got to deal with Andrew Berry, who saved his job by one stinking draft. Okay? Don't get me wrong, I'm not pro Andrew Berry. I think I was so anti-Stefanski, looked like I was pro Andrew Berry. But for me, Andrew Berry's got to knock this one out the park. Because if he doesn't, then he's on the chopping block. Period. Okay? So I think at the end of the day, Schoolhouse will be the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns. And I think Jim Schwartz will stay on as defensive coordinator. If anything else goes wrong, then they will just give the title to Jim Schwartz, and then by 2027, before they move into the new stadium at Brook Park, they will have their brand new coach. Okay. All right, let's get into the draft. The Browns have the number 6 and number 24th pick in the draft. There are two individuals that I want to highlight today, and we're going to talk about them today a little bit. One is Jordan Tyson, who is the wide receiver, All-American at Arizona State University. He started at Colorado under Coach Prime, but then he left. And then there is offensive lineman Vega Ioane, okay, out of Penn State. He is an offensive guard. Ioane is 6'4", 335 pounds. I think Jordan Tyson is 6'2", a little bit over 200 pounds. So we're going to get into their film, and we are going to break down their film. We're going to talk a little bit about each player. I'm going to give my breakdown for each player and why I think the Browns should take these players. I really don't believe in taking an offensive lineman with the number 6 pick. I just don't. I'm not a fan of taking, and I've seen a lot of these mock drafts where they were talking about taking the lineman out of Miami. I don't agree with taking an offensive lineman with the top pick in the NFL draft. I just don't, because you need legitimately 5 linemen. That one lineman is not going to sway you one way or another. And maybe in another program, we can talk about the linemen that the Browns currently have, and then get into that. But I don't want to get into that right now. Let's start here with Jordan Tyson. All right. And I will give the credit when it comes up. All right. This is Jordan Tyson. All right. Like I said, he is a wide receiver for the Arizona Sun Devils. And let's go ahead and get into this, shall we?
Nice and easy for you to identify him on the screen. So let's take a look like what we got here. And is look, we're looking for movement skills, right? We're looking for movement skills. Okay, he's got a little bit of yak ability. Look at that guy miss. Well, he's a big, 300-pound end or whatever. So, but again, look at the shiftiness, making this guy miss, forward lean, gets 5-6 extra yards. So you can tell by his body, look at his legs and the big arms and stuff. He's got that just really good prototypical size I like in wide receivers. He's got some elusiveness, some agility right here, some athleticism. So you got to like what you see when you watch this kid on the field. So, he was moved all around. He plays the slot and out wide. So he's got that versatility that we like to see. Again, just some ability. Look at his yak ability, some decent acceleration, some, decent contact balance there. We're going to see a couple different angles of it again. These are just these wide receiver screens, but he juggles the ball there a little bit. He's got good, solid hands, good catch percentage in the 2024 season. But, he's got some definite yak yards. He's got those long strides, man. He's a long strider. But he's got the ability to win deep like this as well. All right. I mean, look at the length. This is basically a big crossing pattern across the middle of the field. We're going to take another look at it here. All right. It's going to come in here, but we're going to take a look at the solid hands that he has here. Again, just going up, good body control, good solid hands. Look at the footwork. He sees the boundary right there. He gets that extra foot in. Excellent body control, good hands, length, ball skills, everything that you want to see in a receiver. Now, on this play, he doesn't catch the ball. I'd like to see a little bit more stem here on this route. I'd like to see him get a little bit more acceleration. He looks back a little too early for the ball. But again, he's got to learn how to fight that contact. But again, this kid is a raw player. Okay. He is a raw player. He's really only played 2 seasons. Did get hurt again this year. So I think he hurt his collarbone or something like that. So he missed out on all the exciting end of the season. Arizona State, Scadaboo stole the show, but I mean, they could have had a different outcome if this Tyson kid, they really missed him offensively in the playoffs and the bowl games this past year. But here he is with that versatility in the slot. All right. I like the physicality. Let's go back and look at this one more time. You're going to see him little stutter step. He's got physicality there, sheds that contact, comes up again. You can see the separation he created after that contact. And then the ball skills, the length, the hands. Got to love it, man.
So that's Jordan Tyson. Now, one of the things that, has a knock on him is that he's really injury prone. He did not finish the season, this season at Arizona State. He was hurt previous years before, hurt at Colorado. That's the one knock on Jordan Tyson, is that he's not durable. Okay. Now, when you look at it from a skill set, he uses hands. If you want to know the difference between a hands receiver and a body receiver, look at Jordan Tyson and then look at Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy is a body receiver. He lets the ball get into his body. That's why he leads the league in drops, because he lets the ball get into his body. Where you look at Jordan Tyson is catching balls with his hands. Okay. He's catching the ball with his hands. I know, and I forgot the name. I'll give the credit in the description. But when it comes to Tyson and his release, he gets off the ball. He's got pretty decent speed, nice size. He gets a lot of yards after catch. Like I said, he's a hands catcher and not a body catcher. The biggest knock on him is his durability. Can you depend on Jordan Tyson for 17 games in the NFL, against elite talent every week? Let's be honest. Yes, he played at Arizona State. They play some elite talent, but it's not elite every week. When he comes to the pros, it's going to be elite defensive backs every single week. Can he get off a press man coverage? Can he get the release off of man-to-man? And can he stay healthy? Now, those are minor knocks when it comes to Jordan Tyson. Should the Browns, if he's there, use the 6th pick for Jordan Tyson? They could. Okay. And I wouldn't be upset about it. All right. I wouldn't be upset about it. Although I'm a Carnell Tate guy, because I'm a Buckeyes guy, but Jordan Tyson is a 1A. Okay. A 1A. All right. So that's Jordan Tyson. So let's get into Olavega Lowy. And I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Yeah, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Let's get into him. And let's look at a little bit of film here. Okay. Let's take a look here. There we go. Now he's 6'4", about 320. All right, number 71 here. He's got good leverage. He moves very well. And what you want as a guard is you want a guard to be a mauler. You absolutely want him to be a mauler. That's against Ohio State, UCLA. You can see. And like I said last week, I like linemen who finish. And if you look and see what he's doing, he's a pit bull when it comes to moving people. And what I mean, he's a pit bull blocker. And what Coach Young talks about pit bull blocking is a pit bull, when he locks his jaws on you, you can't get him off of you. And so I like the fact that he finishes blocks. He moves well. I think he's given up 1 sack the entire season. Okay. He picked up that twist real well. You want guys that when they get out into space, they are angry blockers. They want to finish you. They want to finish you off. They want to take you to the dirt and leave you there and let you know that you're going to be there the entire time. I like this kid out of Penn State. That's why I'm saying, would I draft him with the sixth pick? No. If he's there at 24, would I pick him up? Possibly. Could he be a second round? He could be. If I could find him, I would. Because the middle of that line, Bitonio is retiring. They're not going to re-sign Wyatt Teller. Ethan Pocic tore his Achilles, so he's probably done. So they got to replace that interior style of the line. Okay? But I like this young man out of Penn State. I like what he brings to the table. All right. So with those two young men, I think the Browns have a great chance of picking up two quality, especially with the number 6 and number 24. Do not, and I say this, do not be surprised if Andrew Berry trades down in this year's draft and picks up more picks. Because you also have, and I may do a segment with him next week, is Makai Lemon out of USC. Okay. And you can get Makai Lemon toward the bottom half of the first round, beginning of second round. Okay. There's some other quality receivers in the draft. But if it was up to me, it's either Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson. And then I trade number 24 down and get more picks and then rebuild my offensive line. Okay, I'm just highlighting people who I believe, but there are more in this draft. I know they try to say that it's not lineman heavy. I don't agree with that. I think there are linemen in this draft that can be got in the later rounds that can be quality linemen in the NFL. Okay. So that's the Browns draft. Next on the list, y'all. Is this a place, speaking of Berea, that coaches want to go to? I guess for me, listening to Mike McDaniel turn down a second interview, listening to Jesse Minter turn down a second interview, John Harbaugh, not even looking for a job in Cleveland, didn't even look at Cleveland. Is this an ideal place? Well, the answer is no. And so you ask why? Well, because of the carousel of quarterbacks. Now, listen, I always preface this by saying I'm not a Shadurian, but I'm not a Shadur hater. I'm not a Dylan Gabriel hater. I'm a Cleveland Browns winner. I want to win. Okay. And so, but I want people to get opportunities to prove themselves. I think that's what it is with Shadur, is I want the young man to at least have a substantial opportunity to produce. Okay. I think when it comes to the Cleveland Browns, I think because the internal side of the organization is so dysfunctional is why coaches don't want to come to Cleveland. I feel that way. We've had a ton of coaches over many years, and they've never been quote unquote top tier superstar coaches. And what I mean by that is you don't have the Mike Tomlins, the Harbaughs, the Belichicks. Well, we had Belichick, and before Belichick became Belichick, and we let him go. The Sabans of the world, those kind of coaches, the Parcells of the world, they don't come to Cleveland. And so I mean, Mike Holmgren came to Cleveland as a GM, and he was absolutely pathetic. He was awful. John Dorsey as a GM was really good. He got the Baker Mayfields, the Nick Chubbs, and Hollywood Higgins, and those guys when they were somewhat successful. But this is not a destination that everybody wants to go to. As you see why the coaching search is the way that it is. It's the way that it is because the ownership is dysfunctional. Okay. It's because the ownership is dysfunctional. Treva Young says, does ownership operate as if Browns are a top tier organization? Yes. That's the crazy part. That's what's so crazy is that they operate as if they are the New England Patriots, and they're not even close. Not even close. And that's where I think the disconnect is. Coaches want to come into a situation that they can control. They want to pick their staff. They want to run their part of the organization the way it was and the way that they want to. And I think the biggest problem is in Cleveland is that Jimmy Haslam refuses to let the rings go in the organization. You know who had that problem as well in Cleveland? Cleveland Cavaliers owner Dan Gilbert. He had that same problem, but he figured it out. He figured out to put smart people in position. He turned the Cavaliers organization front office as he does his business, Rocket Mortgage. He let smart people make decisions. And that's why eventually the Cavaliers became successful, because he allowed people to make decisions in the front office. Yes, I know LeBron came home. I understand that. But the way that Kobe Altman is running the organization now, Dan Gilbert is allowing him to run this organization, where Jimmy Haslam does not allow the people who he has put in position to run the organization effectively, and it shows so much dysfunction. It has been dysfunctional since 1999. Rest in peace to Al Lerner, but it started then. And since Jimmy took over the Cleveland Browns, it has been a dumpster fire. And that's because Jimmy feels that he can buy everything instead of just sitting back and allowing people who he believes are smart people to run the organization. He brought in Paul DePodesta. DePodesta was a baseball guy. Who does that? I'm being honest. Who does that? Who brings in a baseball analytics guy to run an NFL football team? Stop it. Now, do I believe Andrew Berry's a horrible GM? No. I think his limitations are at, unfortunately, what we need right now. It's showing offensive lineman and wide receiver. Now, you could say quarterback, but I believe when Baker was there, we had the quarterback. Stefanski ran him out of Cleveland. I.e. why, and I'm not going to touch on that right now, why Baker Mayfield is still shooting shots at Kevin Stefanski. It was in the news this week. Okay. And I don't have time to get into that drama and that dynamic. I mean, Baker took a shot at Stefanski, and then the Hall of Famer Joe Thomas came back and took a shot at Baker. So it's ugly. But there's a reason that these shots are being taken. Once again, organizational dysfunction. And that's why I think this coaching search is so difficult. And this coaching search, they have to find a young, excited kid to come in and run the Browns, because anybody who has any wherewithal or ilk about themselves are not going to take this job. Okay? They're not going to take this job, literally. So eventually the Browns will have a head coach, but it's only going to be Jim Schwartz, Udinski, or Schoolhouse. They're not going to be anything that you won't see coming. Okay. And for those out there that talked about Mike Tomlin is still under contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if you wanted Mike Tomlin, you have to trade for him. And the Pittsburgh Steelers for Mike Tomlin is going to ask for a first-round pick. That number 6. Why would you do that? Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes my Browns can be the Browns, but they're not going to do that. Plus, I think he's so Pittsburgh Steeler. I don't think he would ever. I think his next job will not be in the Central Division. It won't be in the AFC Central, the NFC, AFC Central. I don't think so. I think he'll travel somewhere else. He won't play against Pittsburgh. I don't think he'll do that. So, no, I don't think this is a quality destination for tenured coaches. I think the next Browns head coach is either going to be somebody in that locker room or one of the young guys. Okay. All right, let's move on. Before we do that, listen, if you have not subscribed to the locker room, I don't know what is going on. I owe you money. Do you can't stand me? What is it? But the locker room is on Saturdays at 11 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. It's about 1 o'clock there in Cleveland. I don't know where it is anywhere else. Y'all smart enough. Y'all can figure that thing out. But if you have not subscribed to the locker room, go to YouTube. Do that. And then just type in the locker room 34. And you'll see this logo. And you'll see this face. And then when you do that, go to 3 the Hard Way. Type that in. Let your spirit fingers roll. Type it in. 3 the Hard Way Sports Podcast. And then like and subscribe to there. All right. Because what we do is we talk Cleveland sports. We also talk other sports as well. So if you have not subscribed, I double and triple dog dare you to subscribe to the locker room. All right. Listen, the AFC NFC championship game is going to be this weekend. You have the New England Patriots versus the Denver Broncos. You have the Seattle Seahawks versus the Los Angeles Rams. I think this is going to be 2 quality games. The playoffs have been really, and I sound like coach from New Orleans. The playoffs have really been entertaining. Honestly, they've been really good. Okay, from Denver beating the Bills, from Seattle putting the boots to San Francisco, from the Rams squeaking out their game against the Chicago Bears. It's been entertaining. But let's break this thing down a little bit, shall we? So the Rams versus the Seahawks. Stafford against the Bears was efficient. He was 22 of 42 for 258 yards. It was cold. Okay. All right. Puka Nacua, of course, is his go-to receiver. Nacua had 5 receptions for 56 yards. Okay. And so this game against the Seahawks, I think is going to be an absolute slugfest. Now, if you want to twist my arm and ask me who do I have, I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford. There's just something about Stafford, the way he's playing in his playoffs right now. Okay. Now, Seattle has a really good defense. I'm not knocking Seattle's defense, but I think Matthew Stafford is on a mission. Okay. And I think the only chance you had to get rid of Stafford was last week, and the Bears could not do it. They did not do it. So I don't know. I think he can go to Seattle, and I think he can do some stuff. Now, Seattle, like I said, they beat the brakes off the 49ers. Sam Darnold was 12 of 17 for 124 yards. Cooper Kupp was 5 receptions for 60 yards. And Jackson Smith and Jigba, go Bucks, was 3 for he had 3 receptions for 19 yards and a touchdown. Now, here's the thing about Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is not going to go out there and throw for 300 yards. He can, but he's not. Here's why. I think what Seattle did was Seattle did not put the whole entire game on Sam Darnold's shoulders. That's been done over the past, and it's been shown that it doesn't work. Sam Darnold Sam Darnold throws the football when he needs to. Think about it. He threw 17 passes last week for 124 yards. What does that mean? That means the run game is very good. 17 passes in the entire game, but they absolutely destroyed the 49ers. Okay? So if I'm picking in this game, my heart goes to Matt Stafford because Stafford has been efficient. He has led this offense. The defense is serviceable. They did a really good job against the Chicago Bears in the first half. Second half, they kind of let up on the gas. That's how Chicago was able to come back. But I love Puka Nacua. I think he's a hard guard. They find different ways to get him open. I just really believe, I think the Rams can pull this out. I'm calling the Rams in this game to beat the Seattle Seahawks, but I think it's going to be a slugfest. I really think it's going to be a dogfight. Then we have the AFC Championship game, which is the Broncos and the New England Patriots. So the Broncos beat the Bills. Bo Nix was 26 for 46. He threw for 279 yards and 3 tutties. Marvin Mims he had 8 receptions for 93 yards and a tutty. Here's my problem. They don't have Bo Nix. Bo Nix broke his ankle toward the end of that game. And now they don't have Bo Nix for the most important game in the AFC. It's hard for me to lean toward the Broncos and a backup quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I think Sean Payton is a genius. I would never doubt Sean Payton, but I'm not by him walking in without Bo Nix. I just cannot see the Broncos beating the Patriots. Now with the Patriots, Drake May, who is an MVP candidate, who in my opinion should win the MVP of the league. Against the Texans, he was 16 for 27 for 179 yards, 3 tutties. Stephon Diggs was 4 for 40, 4 receptions for 40 yards and a tutty. I'm be honest with you, I was rooting for the Texans. The only reason I was rooting for the Texans was because I love Nick Chubb. And I wanted to see Nick Chubb get to a Super Bowl, which would, I really wanted to see Nick Chubb get to a Super Bowl. But, it just wasn't made. It wasn't in the cards. Okay. So New England versus the Broncos. I'm going with the Patriots. I really don't want to. I'm like, the Patriots are spoiled again. But you cannot, what Drake May is doing, and what Mike Vrabel has done in that football team, I can't go against the New England Patriots. So I'm calling New England. So your Super Bowl, I'm calling it as New England and the Rams for your Super Bowl. Okay, that's your AFC NFC Championship. All right, let's go to the Cleveland Cavaliers, shall we? Cavaliers beat the Kings yesterday. Very good game by Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley had 29. Donovan Mitchell had 33. When it comes to that game, I'm saying right now, Sabonis in Sacramento, somebody please go save him. The Kings are a dumpster fire. With all the high-powered talent that they have, they just look terrible. Russell Westbrook, somebody go save him. DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, please, somebody go save these guys because Sacramento looks terrible. They're not a good basketball team, okay? But Donovan Mitchell had a good game. Like I said, 33 points. Evan Mobley had 29 points in that game. Evan Mobley looked completely different. I will get into that in a moment. So Mitchell, 33 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists. Evan Mobley was 29 points, 13 rebounds, and 7 assists. Okay. Sabonis was 21 points, 16 boards, and 6 assists. That was it for me for Sacramento. Okay. Sacramento is not a good basketball team, but hey, a win is a win. I'm not going to sit up there and dog the Cavaliers because they beat the Sacramento Kings. It doesn't matter. They're an NBA ball club, and they beat Sacramento. They beat the Hornets the night before. Evan Mobley, I believe, had 25 points in that game. I could be wrong. I might be off by a couple. But he looked good, okay? So before I get to Donovan Mitchell, let's get to Evan Mobley. Has Evan Mobley been unlocked? What do you mean, Coach? I mean this. Evan Mobley in the past couple games have been over 25 and 10, I believe. Okay. But here's what Kenny Atkinson did. And it's subtle, and I saw it, and I think Kenny Atkinson is a genius. Here's why. There was a 5 that Kenny Atkinson put out on the floor. That 5 was Craig Porter Jr., Dean Wade, Jalen Tyson, Naquan Tomlin, and Evan Mobley. Why is that 5 so significant? Kenny Atkinson put Evan Mobley into a place where he had no choice but to become aggressive and score. Otherwise, the Cavaliers were not going to score. He took Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen off the floor, which made Evan Mobley the primary scorer. And Evan Mobley went off. I think Kenny Atkinson is a genius. He's found the formula. The formula is, and I said this weeks ago, you can go to the locker room and past locker room videos and check it out. You can go to 3 the Hard Way. I've said it on there. Evan Mobley acquiesced to Donovan Mitchell. When Donovan Mitchell's on the floor, Evan Mobley is looking for him. When Darius Garland is on the floor, Evan Mobley is looking for him. Evan Mobley is looking for different options. But what Kenny Atkinson did is he took those options away from him, which caused him to have to step up in certain instances and try to score. Yes, he had Jalen Tyson out there. Yes, he had Craig Porter Jr., Dean Wade. But none of these guys, other than maybe Jalen Tyson, can really create for themselves. And maybe Craig Porter Jr. They have to be created for. And so that's what Evan Mobley did, was he created for them. And if they started sagging and sagging off, then Evan Mobley went downhill. What you saw against the Sacramento Kings is what Evan Mobley could be if Evan Mobley's mindset was there. He was absolutely dominant. Now, I don't like the fact that he doesn't post up a lot, but he'll get to that. But when Evan Mobley is going downhill, and if you sag on him, he's a willing passer, Evan Mobley is hard to guard. And I don't give credit to Evan Mobley on that. That credit goes directly to Kenny Atkinson. Kenny has forced Evan Mobley's hand. He took all of his safety valves away from him. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Jared Allen. He's taken all of those things away from him. And he has forced Evan Mobley to have to step up. I think it's genius. I think it was genius. And I think you'll see a lot more of that. But then you'll start seeing the real Evan Mobley. Okay, it starts tonight. They play Orlando tonight. Okay, and the Wagner boys. They play Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner and his brother. They play them tonight. So we'll see if Evan Mobley can make this 3 games in a row. Okay. Donovan Mitchell was, he's been elected to the All-Star, but he is not an All-Star starter. Okay. He's not an Eastern Conference All-Star starter. Well, why is that? Is that a problem? Is that a snub? No, it's not a snub. This team is not that great. They're 5th in the Eastern Conference. Okay, you're not going to get rewarded for that. Yes, he's an all-star. Yes, he's averaging close to 30 points a game, but your team is 25-20. I wouldn't want Donovan Mitchell to be the all-star starter. I'm just glad he's an all-star. Okay, so no, it's not a snub. I think it's correct. And if you look at who's ahead of him, the top 5, you got Giannis Antetokounmpo from Milwaukee. You have Jalen Brunson from New York. Tyrese Maxey's been out here balling. Cade Cunningham is on the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference. You got to reward that. And then Donovan Mitchell. No, it's not an all-star snub. Donovan is right where he should be. Because even though he's got superstar numbers, it's not elevating the team. Now, you can say the same thing with Tyrese Maxey, but it's not Tyrese Maxey's fault that Philadelphia is terrible. It's Joel Embiid's. Okay? Jalen Brunson is doing well in New York. Giannis is Giannis. Now, does the Bucks stink? Yeah, they stink. They're terrible. But Giannis is Giannis. Giannis gets the LeBron pass. And the reason I say he gets the LeBron pass is because he's Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's why he's being elected. Because if Giannis Antetokounmpo was being elected based on Milwaukee's record, Giannis wouldn't be there. Okay? So no, it's not a snub. It's not a snub at all. I think Donovan is exactly where he is and where he should be. Okay? And for me, I have a Kobe Bryant saying. I remember when Kobe Bryant was asked, the late, great Kobe Bryant was asked when it came to LeBron. LeBron had won an MVP, and they, said, well, Kobe, do you feel like you slighted? Kobe looked at him and said, I don't care about MVPs. I care about championships. That's Mamba mentality. That's what that means. So I don't care about whether he's an all-star starter or not. I could care less about that. And I know he can. What I care is will these guys be ready playoff time? So no, it wasn't a snub. He's an all-star. Okay, he'll get a chance to participate in this whack all-star game. I'll bring it up. We'll talk about that another time. Are the Cavs right where they want to be? They are fourth in the Eastern Conference. Fifth. They're fifth in the Eastern Conference. They're 1.5 games back from the Knicks and 7.5 from the Pistons. The Cleveland Cavaliers are right where they need to be. Right now, they're right where they need to be. After the All-Star break, the Cavaliers need to make a run. Kenny Atkinson is not concerned about winning the Eastern Conference. If they do it, they do it. But him or Donovan Mitchell are not concerned about winning the Eastern Conference. What they're concerned about is going into the playoffs healthy. And I say this, if Evan Mobley continues to play the way he's playing, if Jalen Tyson continues to play the way he's playing, Naquan Tomlin, Craig Porter Jr., when Max Strus comes back, he's got to get himself into shape. When Darius Garland comes back, when Sam Merrill comes back, when these guys come back and they're all healthy, you do not want to play the Cleveland Cavaliers in the playoffs. You absolutely, positively do not want to play the Cavaliers in a 7-game series. You don't. And I know a lot of folks are, well, yeah, they soft. Okay. All right. I want you to walk into that playoff run with the Cavaliers and think that. Because right now, Kenny Atkinson is playing with house money. He's not worried about the Eastern Conference. Think about the teams that lead the East. New York. You got Toronto. Okay, you got Detroit. Cleveland is not afraid of any of them. They don't strike fear in the Cavaliers' hearts. They know that when they're healthy, they can beat them all. I want to see how they play the Magic tonight, because Paolo Banchero has been a problem when it comes to the Cavaliers. Rightfully so. Young man is a great player. But I want to see, because I know they picked up Desmond Bane in free agency. And what the Magic like to do with the Cavaliers, they like to get physical. So I want to see, can the Cavaliers match the Orlando Magic's physicality? If they can match the physicality, the Cavaliers are not a team you want to mess with in the playoffs. So I think right now being 5th in the Eastern Conference is right where they want to be. Because remember, they were number 1 all year, running off 16 in a row, and then they got bounced in the playoffs. I want them to figure it out. Not now. They can figure it out after the All-Star break. Okay? All right, real quick, let me give you guys my coach's rant, and then I'm going to get out of here. Thank you guys again for joining the locker room. I appreciate y'all. Remember, Saturdays, 11 o'clock Mountain Standard Time that I'm coming on here. I came on here a little bit late because Echo the Wonder Dog got a little bit excited. And so you can hear him all over the broadcast. So I really had to do it over again. Sorry about that, y'all. But, he is who he is. He's protector of the castle. All right. My coach's rant is this. The Rooney Rule. So the Rooney Rule, and I'm going to take a minute with this. The Rooney Rule was established for teams to interview minority candidates. NFL teams cannot hire coaches unless they interview a minority coach. It was called the Rooney Rule because Dan Rooney, legendary owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, instituted that rule in his organization. And he also asked the NFL to institute that rule because a lot of great minority candidates were being overlooked by NFL teams. Well, 2 things. Number 1, I'm coming at the Rooney Rule in this manner. One, by the Browns. The Browns have failed to exercise the Rooney Rule. Okay? And so before they can hire a head coach, unless the league gives them a pass, which is possible, okay, to give them a pass, they have to interview a minority candidate. But I don't want to come from the Browns aspect because the Browns aspect is completely goofy. You figure you have an African-American GM and he has not gotten anybody for the Rooney Rule to do the, to interview. I'm not getting into all that. I know they brought in a couple candidates and those candidates turned down the second interview. You should have known. You should have had a backup. Okay. And then if you bring somebody in now to try to justify the Rooney Rule, you're not going to hire them. So why would any self-respecting coach come in just to be interviewed, knowing that they're not going to get the job? But I digress. I'll leave the Browns alone. Do you know that the Rooney Rule was implemented in 2003? There were 22 coaches that have been hired since the Rooney Rule was instituted. However, there's only been one minority head coach that's been hired since the Rooney Rule was put in effect. And that was Mike Tomlin. By who? Dan Rooney. This rule is a joke. It's an absolute joke. It still shows that there is discrimination in the NFL because there are great minority candidates that are out here that are still trying to get a job and have not gotten one. There's still minority coaches out here who could be a head coach and have not been given the opportunity. Tell me why Brian Flores could not and have not and was not interviewed to be a head coach in the NFL. And don't miss me with that stuff in Miami. Because if you're a competitor in this game, I'm not going to tank for anybody as well. And don't come at me talking about because he snitched on the NFL. I'd have done the same doggone thing. You're not going to sit up there and tell me to tank. I'm not doing that. Don't hire me as a head coach if you think that I'm not coming in there to win. But the Rooney Rule is a joke. One minority head coach in 22 years? One? Why you have so many good, not just African-American coaches, but it's minority coaches out here. So you mean to tell me Byron Leftwich is not a good candidate to become a head coach? Eric Bieniemy just went back as the OC for Kansas City. He's not good enough to be a head coach? Come on, y'all. Come on. Call it what you see. The NFL still has a problem with minority coaches. Yeah, I know you guys will come at me with Tom Flores of the Raiders and Art Shell. Okay, I get that. Okay, but the Raiders are a transcendent organization. Al Davis knew. Al Davis knew there's a difference. Okay, the Rooney family knew that Mike Tomlin was it. So when everybody's trying to talk about the Browns not exercising the Rooney Rule, I'm going to talk about the NFL not really exercising the Rooney Rule. So miss me with all of that nonsense. Well, they have to interview a minority candidate. All 32 teams. Let's not just talk about the Browns. Let's talk about all 32 teams. And when you interview these minority coaches, are you really considering them? Really? Because if you're really considering them, why don't we have more minority head coaches in the NFL? Why? Because you're not considering them. So yes, there's still a form of racism and there's still a form of discrimination in the NFL. I don't care how many guys that you hire in the front office, in the league office. There needs to be more minority coaches because there's good coaches instead of all these retreads that these teams are trying to bring in. And that is my coach's rant for today. Listen, y'all, I appreciate you again. Welcome and thank you for joining in with me at the locker room. Like I said, I'm here every Saturday at 11. I'm a little later today. I told you guys why, but I am here. I'm going to be here. I appreciate all of you. Listen, like, comment, subscribe, share. All right. Leave your comments there. Share the locker room. I'm out of here. It is my time. I'm a little bit over. I apologize, but I'm going to get out of here. And like I always say, love on somebody. Tell somebody that you love them. Don't always assume that they know. I see you guys.